I was reminded of one of the experts in the field and their thought about expectations. And I won't tell you who, but somebody said, take a breath. You do not receive what you want. And I thought, what? What? And he said, you do not receive even what you pray for. Oh, come on. Should I cancel services on Sunday? He said, you receive what you expect. You receive what you expect. So let me just say this again. You don't receive what you want or even what you pray for. You receive what you expect. Eric Butterworth, let's show him up here on the screen so you can let it sink in for a minute. I love Eric, and he's one of our Unity writers and was a minister for many, many years in New York City and made his transition now, but he always wrote in a way that I could understand metaphysics more easily. This one, I feel like I need to come in here and clarify a little bit, just because I am me and he is he. So when we think about this today, we're talking about expectations that get in the way. Some expectations work for us, but some get in the way, and we're going to differentiate between the two. It's important to just check in every once in a while with your life to see how it's going. Is it happening the way that you want it to? Maybe, maybe not. And when it's a not, then ask yourself, well, what am I expecting to happen? And see if there's a difference there. The most common interference to our wants are our expectations. So they're important to understand and pay attention to. How many of you were here last week? Okay, of the ones that were here last week, when we went through the rituals of releasing things that were no longer serving us, how many of you actually remembered to release an expectation? What is she talking about? I don't know. Why am I here again? Why should we release expectations? Well, let's find out why. They may not be serving us. I want us to get clear on what these expectations are and how they work for us or work against us. And I would define them in a bunch of different ways. So let's get settled and figure this out together. First of all, one of the ways that I define an expectation is when an agreement, I'm visualizing in my mind or in my heart that there's an agreement with someone that says they're going to behave a certain way or do a certain thing or give me a certain thing that I want. The agreement is a silent contract. The agreement is something that only has one signature on it, mine. But I still expect them to abide. Now, my hunch is you do too, that you've had this experience at least once in your life. So let's just read through some of these types of expectations up here out loud and just see when you hit one that says, oh, yeah, that's me. All right, so my expectations say that you should behave like I want you to. Join me here. Make me feel loved and valued. Be at my beck and call. Think like me. Agree with me. Do the things I like. Think about my needs first. Try harder to make me happy. Know when I've earned something. Consider my feelings before you decide. Know when your feelings are hurt. Reward me for my hard work and respect and appreciate me after all I've done for you, all without me telling you. Of course. So one or two of us might have had one of those expectations in our life, and yet, they don't always seem to live up to our expectations, right? Remember, they did not sign the contract, and you probably didn't tell them this. Okay, another expectation is the ones that we kind of hold of the world in general. It's where we've had enough lifetime experience that we should just expect this in life. It's when we've had a tradition established where everybody should abide by it. It's where it's the law. It's where it's the right thing to do and everybody should just do it, right? Yes. Okay. So for instance, some of you might receive a Social Security check every month from the government, and it is maybe your sole source of income. And you expect that check to show up on time. Well, I remember, my grandma used to live next door to us, and I remember watching her walk out to her mailbox every day to get her mail, and every once in a while at the end of the month, that Social Security check did not show up. Now, the government hadn't failed. It's not like it went away somewhere. She just wasn't getting her check, and all hell was breaking loose in her life. She expected that because it's experience, it's maybe even the law, if we look it up, I don't know. But her expectation was causing havoc in her own life. Maybe you expect that the coffee maker that you bought 3 weeks ago, because it's only 3 weeks old, it should still be working, but what if you wake up in the morning and it's not? Or what if you take marriage vows, but your partner is nowhere to be seen because they've left? You expected them to live up to those vows, and they didn't. Or the tradition in your house or in your family line is we go to school, we go to high school, we graduate from college, but what if one of your children decides to drop out or to flunk out? What do we do with that expectation? Or what if everybody who gets a license has to go through a test, so we expect everybody to know how to drive until we get rear-ended? That's just wrong, we think. That's an expectation that for some bizarre reason did not get met. So in that case, Eric's not quite right. If we expect everyone to drive properly and then they don't, Eric, what are you talking about? This is getting complicated, right? Yeah, it's getting complicated. That might mean that we have a flawed expectation in someone else, and it's pretty much based on a belief that is not based in spiritual truth. Any belief that says they, the world, the government, the people in my school or my workplace or whatever, will provide for my need and all of my problems will be solved, probably a flawed expectation, probably not based on spiritual truth. Why? Because they have their own free will. They have a mind of their own. When you put expectations in someone else, now you're on that line where may or may not happen. And this means that if you're going to do this, you've got to control those you've got to control the people of whom you have expectations in. Do you like my English? Was that proper? Of whom? Okay, so let's metaphysically interpret this for a minute with the Bible story from the book of Acts. There's the Apostle Paul and Silas who are roaming the streets and the hills, talking about Jesus and trying to inform others how to live life. And the government doesn't like it, and the magistrates arrest them, and they throw them into jail, and they tell the jailer, keep them secure. So he puts them in the innermost cell, and he locks their feet up in stocks so they can't get away. And one night, it's like midnight-ish, and Paul and Silas are singing hymns and praying, and other prisoners are laying there listening to them, and suddenly there's this huge earthquake, and it shifts the foundation of the prison, and all of their chains break loose, the doors break open, and the jailer wakes up and he sees what's happened, and he takes his sword out ready to commit suicide because he's going to get killed anyway for letting the prisoners go free. Well, it turns out they're shouting, hey, we're all here. Paul said, don't kill yourself, we're all here. So he turns on the lights and he rushes in to see what the heck is going on, and he figures they must have something that he needs. So he says, what do I need to do to be saved? And Paul answered, believe on the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household. And they spoke the word of the Lord to him and to all who were in this house. Now, real basic metaphysical interpretation means, how are these people or these happenings part of my own consciousness? How might I see them as a metaphor for my own consciousness? And what I want you to really focus on is the jailer. Who is the jailer in me? One of the things that A Course in Miracles says up here on the screen said, who could be set free while he imprisons anyone? A jailer's not free, for he's bound together with his prisoner. Who is Jesus in the story, metaphysically? It's the Christ within us. And the apostles were saying, if you want to experience freedom in your life, turn to the Christ within. He was literally pointing to a man, Jesus. We're metaphysically interpreting that. If you want to experience freedom in your life, you can't be the jailer of other people or other situations to insist that everything work the way that you want it to work. Your freedom comes in turning within, where your power really lies, which is your spiritual self, your higher self. So if you're holding expectations, that makes you a jailer to the people that you're expecting something from. And you got to keep watch over them and got to make sure that they behave a certain way that you want them to. And just pay attention every time you find that you think your happiness is bound to an outside source. That's when you are, first of all, tied to them, but secondly, you're powerless over it. You're powerless over them because they have their own free will. And what's the main error belief behind our expectation? They are my source. How many times have we sung that song, God is my source? Yeah, anytime we forget that and we shift into the material world is my source and I expect it to come through for me, we are now caught as a jailer, tied to those outside people and experiences and situations that we really have no control over. So let's take better care of our expectations. You know, the most common expectation that's holding us back is the ones that we hold of ourself. And here's where I think it will tie nicely to what Eric said, that an expectation about ourselves is usually very subtle. We don't really know that it's there, but for some reason, it has amazing power over us. And you come to get a feel for it when it's the kind of situation where you have a desire, like let's say that you want to start a new job or a new career, but you're having a hard time making that happen. You don't know why. Could it be that there is an expectation within you that you're too old? Nobody's going to hire you at your age. Is it possible that even though we all want to get through life in a healthy fashion, is it possible that we have a deeper expectation that we will be inheriting our parents' illnesses? And yet we're surprised when it happens to us. We've been living so healthfully. Maybe your desire is that you want a more abundant life, more prosperity, more allowance of being able to do whatever you want to do. But if you really look, if you really listen, if you really feel inside yourself, you'll see there's an expectation there that's interfering that says, I've never had enough money. My family's never had enough money. I'm not going to have enough money. I'm never going to get rich. I'm never going to win the lottery. I'm not, never. That's the dominant belief in you. And that's the energy that's getting in the way of your desire. A loving relationship, just once, having someone to love me. And in that deeper expectation, there's also a belief, I'm not lovable enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not popular enough. And we've probably been carrying that one around a lot longer than the desire to be in a loving relationship. How are you feeling so far? I want to try something new. I want to get outside the box and do something different. But at the same time, the last time I tried this, the last 40 times I tried this, I failed at it. So I don't really expect that I can get past that. And at some point, we stop having desires. Because what's the point? They never seem to show up for us. Anybody watch the, what's it called, Polar Express Christmas movie? Anybody? Okay, all right, good. Well, I won't give the whole thing away, but it's about kids that get on a train that just happens to show up in front of their house on Christmas Eve and takes them to the North Pole to see Santa take off on his sleigh. And One of the kids is from the wrong side of the tracks, but he does decide at the last minute to get on the train. So now they're all headed to the North Pole. They wind up there on the island, so to speak, and it's time to get off and walk to city center and see Santa and his sleigh and all his reindeers take off. The kids pile out of the train except for the one kid from the wrong side of the tracks. He went all the way to the North Pole, but he wouldn't get off the train. And when a couple new friends tried to talk him into it, he basically just hung on for dear life. Christmas just never works out for me. There was his deepest expectation. I won't tell you what happens next. You'll have to watch it. But that's the idea, that we may have desires to meet Santa, but if we've got a deeply held belief that says things never work out for me around Santa, that might start to point us in the direction of what needs to happen. Now, we're mostly unaware that those beliefs are there because they've been started at a very early age. We've watched our parents, we've watched the tradition of our culture, we've watched the government, we've decided this is the way it is. And if we allow what's on the outside of us, there it is again, to inform our expectations, it's going to take something to wake us up and to shake us up. Most of us don't realize the power of that expectation within us. I have turned to Esther Hicks as a teacher for many years, and I heard a podcast that she did where she was talking to a woman who was just so depressed because she had invented something, designed something. She never really went into detail about it, but it sounded like a major thing. But she couldn't get anyone interested in it, and she just was about ready to give up. Even though Esther agreed this is an amazing thing and you're a genius, and it might have even, if I heard correctly, it might have even been worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but she couldn't get anyone interested in it. She had a broker, all kinds of things. Couldn't get anyone interested in it. And Esther said, you know why? Because you don't trust others to love your work the way you do. Oh, man, that was an eye-opener. To me, that was like, oh, she was expecting to be rejected. Before she ever met a potential client, she was expecting to be rejected. Esther said, you're imbuing your product with your own disappointment in other people before you even meet them. So there's an energy, a frequency that's being sent out into the universe. And it's simply returning back to her what her expectations are. You know, she's instead attracting the people that don't want her. Can you see how that might work for us? Esther said, there's nothing lacking in your work. What's missing is you don't feel good about the people you want to attract. She expected them to reject her. So this is requiring a shift in expectation where she needs to start expecting to meet people who are interested in you. And Esther said, oh, by the way, you need to be interested in you. If you're already setting out to fail and see yourself as a failure, why should anyone else be interested in you? Why does this expectation that we hold have such power over us? The simple statement that Jesus made over and over again. Let it be done to you according to your belief. That's what an expectation is. It's your deeply held beliefs. And when you hold a belief long enough, you basically exude it. People can see it in you when you walk in the door. You know what an Eeyore looks like, right? You know, the donkey from Winnie the Pooh. Was he a donkey? Okay, yeah. So, Eeyore, everything bad happens to me. Nothing good ever happens to me. Yeah, you can feel that energy. That's what I mean by being. You are being that energy. And how many of you know a Pollyanna? Where they always see good. They always expect to find joy or happiness in their daily experience. And they do. And they also exude it to us when they come in the door. Anybody know a Pollyanna, or at least somebody who just kind of lives from happiness? Yeah, that's their expectation, to find good. So now the divine law is put into action based on what we are being, expecting, holding, energizing, sending out. And as it works, it is done to us as we believe. We bring it back into our life. Your feelings are the most obvious expression of that. One of my favorite teachings about that came from Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola. They are the authors of The Quest. And if you're ever interested in knowing more about unity basics, that's a good one to start with. It's got 48 lessons, so you can kind of go through the whole year. Just take a lesson at a time and work your way through. Here's what they said. We sometimes think one thing and manifest another because the conscious thought of the moment, like I want that, has not yet worked itself into the subconscious phase of mind. It has not been felt or realized. Until thoughts become a part of the feeling nature, they do not produce results in our bodies and affairs. How do you get your feelings to align with your desires? You have to deepen your expectation of that which you are seeking, and you have to weed out those error thoughts that say, and here's why I'm not going to get it. They are secret little buggers. They like to hide. But all it takes really is to check in with your feeling. When you say, I want this, I'm looking forward to this, is that true? I expect this to happen, is that really true? And you'll know it, you'll feel it. I feel it like right about here. Sometimes you get it in your gut. Wherever. Just pay attention to the feelings. So let's start the process of transforming this a little bit. Maybe we want to take baby steps to start with. It's kind of hard to just turn one expectation into the complete opposite. So how about if in those expectations where we're expecting other people to do things for us, to give us stuff, let's shift it to a preference. A preference says, I would prefer that to happen. I would prefer that they behave that way. I would prefer for it to turn out like this. And if not, I know there is still something better available to me. And part of the preference model is you can do that. You can still keep your desire. You can still put it out there as long as you realize that your source is God and God is infinite. God's supply is infinite. So you don't have to worry about, but what if they fail me, or what if they run out, or what if the world ends? Instead, you just go with, I would prefer them to behave this way, but if not, God is my source, and there's infinite possibilities here. Doesn't that sound better? Doesn't that sound more relieving? Doesn't that sound more easy for your subconscious to like, okay, I think I can deal with that one. Let's let that one in. So our goal here is to realize that the universe has our back, that it's an infinite realm of divine good, and Jesus told us that that kingdom is here amongst us, available to us. So if we want to give it an opportunity to express itself, we have to bring it in to the process and keep turning back there. You know, if the details don't unfold exactly the way that you expected them to. So think of it, how does God see this? Well, let's see. Does God see my desire for a new path in life as a struggle? No. But God knows I want a new path in life. Yes. So does God see it as only available to people of certain age? No. Only limited amount of good available? No. God just simply hears the desire. It's God's joy to give us the kingdom. So God hears the desire, and P.S., God is your higher self. So it's basically, you're all one thing here. We'll talk about that in the What is Unity class out here today. But realize Spirit is standing in the finished product of your desire. Already knows who's going to be involved in providing resources, already knows when, already knows where. Not yours to worry about, not yours to think about. But it is yours to open a door and allow that part of the process to happen, which means give up on the stranglehold of how it has to look, expecting it to be a specific way, and instead just trust that, yeah, this is what I prefer, but I do trust Spirit to know what my highest good is and how to make this happen. So align yourself with the finished higher self version. Already done. Ask and it's given, Jesus said. So if you ask, it's immediately given. If you don't see it, it's because it's still waiting in the spiritual dimension to manifest. It needs you as the channel to manifest through. So our work is to get our energy, our focus, our desire in line with what Spirit is already being. Yes? Okay. Thank you for saying yes. I know that some of you said that against your will, but But it takes practice. It takes, getting used to this. So our better chance here is, first of all, rather than be looking to others to be our provider for our good, what if we became the desire that we want from someone else? When your spouse is having a bad day or a bad week or a bad year, and you're like trying to figure out if this is ever going to really work itself out and how long am I going to be able to take this, you might just go with, I'm going to, instead of expecting them to change and come back into alignment with what I want them to be, I'm going to shift my own consciousness to a state of being that I want from them. I'll be that. I'll be that for me. Yeah. So instead of expecting them to be more considerate of me, I'll be more considerate of me. Instead of expecting them to remember to pick up after themselves, I'll pick up after myself. I'm just going to start being the partner that I'm looking for, okay? Trust that when you start radiating the frequency of what it is you want from someone else, and you start being that yourself, you are now opening the door for spirit to do its work in them, whether it's bringing us back together or it's turning us in another direction. I have no idea where that is. We all know what we prefer. But trust spirit to get involved. Give room for spirit to do the guidance, both for you and for them. Are you open to that? They say haltingly, not really sure. But try it, see what happens. And part of our distress when we're expecting things from the world is we're too involved with the world. We got way too much going on in our consciousness that is influencing our expectations. How many expected the Bears to win? At the third quarter. That was thanks to Jill for telling me what the heck happened this weekend. I was not watching. But think about how much clutter is going on in your mind, which, if it's there long enough, it works its way down into the subconscious, and then it just starts behaving on its own through you. How much clutter is going on in you based on social media, any use of the internet, anything watching on live TV, live streaming, podcasts? How much clutter is going on in you based on what people are taking sides on, and which side should I take? How much clutter is going on in you when there's all these world problems going on, and how should I be involved, and shouldn't I at least have an opinion about that? How much clutter is lowering your frequency and just basically interfering with every positive desire you might have in your life? Oh, I read a good one from Esther Hicks, something like, you cannot get to your happy ending if the journey is not happy. Yeah, and yet we expect to. That might be an interference, right? So, keep checking in. What am I feeling about my life? What am I focused on? What am I giving my attention to? What do I believe? What do I expect? Now, if really the ideal, and that's what I always like to focus on because that's my job and that comes naturally to me, even though I don't practice it all the time, and now I'm telling stories on myself, so let me get back to the issue. All right, so there is a metaphysical interpretation for the divine idea of expectation. So if you're going to have any expectations, here's something to consider. Anticipation of divine good. That's how Charles Fillmore defines it. What's an expectation? Anticipation of divine good. Looking about for the wondrous benefits God has prepared for us. In every person is that which causes him always to hope for and to expect that which is good and true. This very expectation helps the good to become active. Now, that's a shift. Most of us have learned how to expect from others. Now we're talking about turning within. Letting our expectations turn to the source of our being, the very essence of why we exist. Doesn't it make sense to start with the manufacturer? The energy, the life, the wisdom, the creativity that basically comes through us. Start there first. See what God's got going on. Try to get to that purest desire and make it from the highest level possible, which basically doesn't believe that there's a limited amount. It doesn't believe that if someone fails you, you can't have it. It just stands in there knowing that the infinite good of God is always available. And maybe shift to not the hows and whens and wheres and whos, but let's pretend like it's already done. It's already complete. Now how do I feel? How would you feel? Thankful. Relieved is a good word. Shoot for relief. If you can't get to anything else, shoot for relief. That is already done in the spirit, in the mind of spirit, and let me get out of its way so it can actually express through me. Not how will it happen, but grateful that wonderful things are happening. And know that it is available to you to live as you desire. If you came here for any reason, it wasn't to be punished and abused and deprived of. No. You came here to experience and express your divine potential in wonderful ways. And that's going to be something good, I promise you. God's will for us is always good. So put your expectations first in God. Seek first the kingdom. All the details will take care of themselves. Know that all we need is already within us. And every time we catch ourselves complaining or fearing because something outside of ourselves has the potential to take our good from us or not show up with our good when we need it. Every time you catch yourself, ooh, that is such a good homework assignment. Every time you catch yourself this week, worrying or being upset about a potential loss of some kind, and your focus is on they and them and the world and the internet, I want you to come back to, I am spirit. I am eternal. There are no limits to me. For God is spirit, I'm made in the image and likeness of God. God's unlimited good is my unlimited good. God's creative mind is my creative mind. All that I need is within me. What is it that I desire? How would it feel if it were already complete? I expect that infinite good to be available to me, and I am aligned with it. Looking forward to this, having fun now. Doesn't that sound so much more fun? And it's also the type of expectation that doesn't get in your way. Next week, we're going to talk about intentions. They're different than expectations. And there's a whole new way of looking at intentions rather than just the list of resolutions that you're probably making right about this time. But for today, I want us to focus on expectations. This week, pay attention when you find yourself expecting something from the outside to happen, but you don't really see good, and get back to the inner. Okay, let's take this into meditation. This time that we spend here in meditation, so many versions of meditation. But one way you might want to consider practicing is to meditate on, focus on something of spirit, the goodness of God that is always present in you. And the more that we meditate on that goodness in you, we relax, we give up resistance, we allow, we cancel out any expectations that the ego might have, because now we are shifting consciousness, we're shifting our energy, our way of being to align with truth. So let's take a deep breath. And begin by imagining that this body is not who I am. This body is not who I am. It's a shelter. It's a vehicle. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful to know that the life in this body is divine. It's perfect, it's whole, it's intelligent. This divine life in me at this very moment is supporting and is the very ground of being of my body. If today feels like a day where your body wants to be weak or tired or ill, that may be a fact, and we can also turn our expectation now towards that divine life in us, which is way more powerful and perfect and whole. Let's look at that divine life energy in our body. See if you can't detect a bit of a hum in your energy of your body, and realize that that life in you began and is sustained by the perfect spiritual life and intelligence of the divine mind, the presence and the power of God. I am alive with the life of God. What a relief. Allow that to sink in until you can feel some gratitude for it. I am alive with the life of God, and I expect that divine life to always be there for me, to nurture and sustain me. And let's turn our thoughts to the world outside of ourselves. All those billions and trillions of people, maybe not trillions. So many people. So different. Some are having a good day and some aren't. And so I give up expecting everyone to behave like I want them to. And now I just imagine each individual person on this planet right now as an eternal spiritual being, just like me. Yes, they're having a human experience, but they're still spirit, just like me. And even on their worst days, they're still spirit, just like me. I see the light of God living at the heart of their being, just like me. I'm thankful for that divine presence of pure and perfect love, accepting them and accepting me. I am pure and perfect love in spirit, and so are they. It's my nature to love. It's true for them too. I expect that presence of love to work all things together for the highest good of everyone involved. I release the need to guide or control others' behavior, and I simply give in to love and trust and expect love to do the work of goodness. What a relief. I'm so grateful to know that my infinite good is here, now, everywhere present in the Spirit of God. And I say yes. My expectation is in God and good and love and truth. I gratefully receive it. I faithfully allow it. This is the truth of my being, and now I let it be. And so it is. Amen.